Everyone, and welcome. Can someone verify that they can hear me, please?
We can hear you.
Great. Thank you, Ariel. Thank you, Allison. I am Kira Taylor. I am the director of the MS in Epidemiology program at U of L, and I'm here to answer any questions you have about the program. And I'll also give you a little outline about the program, which you can also see on the website. Okay. So why epidemiology? Why might you be interested in a master's in epidemiology? Because it's fun, it's scientific, it's logical. We study things like who gets disease, what are the patterns of disease around the world, how does disease develop, why do some populations and peoples around the world get, have higher risk of disease than others? What are the risk factors for disease, and how can disease be prevented? It's a very quantitative and logical field. It's evidence-based. And like I said, it's fun. It's like solving mysteries, solving puzzles. And as epidemiologists, we're very interested in how to design scientific studies on human populations, not on rats or mice or fruit flies, to answer these questions. As I'm going through the presentation, feel free to stop me at any point if you have questions. Maybe Ariel, you can text me if someone has a question because I'm not sure I'll be able to see it on my screen. So Ariel Young is our department coordinator. She's here with us today. And so epidemiology is a great career. I've really enjoyed it so far. I've been in this field since 2004. And I've seen it grow and develop and mature and get more into big data and stuff like that as I've been an epidemiologist through the years. But it is a fast-growing profession with a projected increase of 19% over the next decade. So we're talking, past the current administration. The median salary is pretty good, $81,000 for those with a master's degree. And you can get a job in all different kinds of fields. Health departments, of course, you can go into academia, federal health agencies like the CDC, insurance companies. We have some students that have gone into pharmaceuticals, energy companies. We have even someone that went into the food industry. So of our MS graduates, 30% have gone into work for industry, basically medical research or consulting. 40% have gone on to pursue a PhD in epi, and 30% have gone on to medical school. Why epi at U of L? Because we're a small department. We care a lot about our students. We have a high touch philosophy, meaning that we, are in contact with our students. We email them. We have virtual meetings with them. So it's a small program, and we're able to give our students a lot of individual attention. And we are experts in our field. We all have a PhD in epidemiology. Everyone who teaches in the MS program has a PhD in epi. And we also have a great program at U of L, the Delphi Center for Teaching and Learning, which provides dedicated support to both students and faculty for online learning. Our program, there are several epi online MS programs around the United States, not very many, but we pride ours in giving you rigorous training in methods, study design, and statistical programming. And we also provide a nice background in the history of epidemiology and the biology of disease. And finally, our program is fully asynchronous. There are no synchronous meetings required. Everything is online, and you can do it on your own time. This is the curriculum. There are 10 courses for a total of 30 credit hours. And I'll talk a little bit more about these classes in the next slides. So here is an example of a 5-semester plan, which is what we recommend. So 2 courses per semester. In the first fall, you would take 2 methods classes. One is epidemiologic methods, and the other is statistical methods. Basic statistics. In spring, you go into the theory of epidemiology, taking theoretical foundations, which take you through the history of the causation of disease and philosophies about how disease is caused from thousands of years ago until now. And you'll also take survey research methods because a lot of what we do in epidemiology is surveys. This summer, you'll go into more the biology of disease and how disease develops, and you'll learn about study coordination skills for epidemiologic research, like really practical skills. How do you design a study? How do you implement a study in humans? The second fall, you're going to learn how to do statistical programming with R statistical language, and you'll also take a content course, environmental and occupational epidemiology. And in the final spring, you would take computational epidemiology with SAS, and this course also contains the culminating project for the program. So it's kind of like an independent study within this class using SAS. And we rounded off with clinical epidemiology, which gives you a nice review of epidemiological methods as we send you off into the world, and also has a more clinical focus. Are there any questions right now on the classes or the program? Okay. I don't hear anything. I don't see anything. Here's another flight plan if you just wanted to go with one course per semester. I mean, you could do that, or you could do 9 or anything in between. The minimum number of semesters required to graduate would be 4. So that would be a fall, spring, summer, and then fall again. So if you started in the fall of this year, you would graduate, if you did it as fast as you could, you would graduate in December of next year. There's a formal application required through the U of L Graduate School with transcripts and CV for admission, a one-page personal statement describing your background and specifically your interest in epidemiology. Why epidemiology? Why not some other field? 2 letters of recommendation, which should speak to your academic abilities, your quantitative skills, and your desire to be in public health, really. An undergraduate GPA of 3 out of 4. We also accept people provisionally if they have a GPA of at least 2.75. Official transcripts of all college degrees, anything after high school, we need an official transcript. And finally, college algebra or some higher level math with a grade of B or higher, as shown on one of those transcripts. For international applicants, of course, the program is open to international applicants. It is important to note that a visa will not be provided because this program is completely online. And you're required to take an English proficiency test if you come from a country where the language of instruction is not English. Tuition is $850 per credit hour, plus a $10 fee per credit hour for online classes. There's also a military tuition rate of $250 per credit hour. There is financial aid available as long as you take at least 4.5 hours in a semester. You're eligible to apply for loans through our financial aid office. So, any questions at this point? Let me check on here. Okay. So some commonly asked questions, FAQ. How is the material delivered? Through our online course delivery system, which is called Blackboard. Each course typically has a combination of lecture materials, which could include videos or modules that you work through, homework assignments, projects, and a few classes also have exams. And some classes also have group work. Each course is a full semester long. We don't do mini semesters, except for summer semester, which is 10 weeks. Fall and spring are 15 weeks. You are encouraged to attend part-time. 1 or 2 classes per semester, the occasional 3 classes per semester if you wish. You can't attend full-time every single semester just because of the way the course schedule works, but you will be able to attend full-time for some semesters. It just depends on what you want to do with your timeline and what courses are being delivered in that semester. So you'll work with me. I'll be your advisor if you're admitted to the program and you come to U of L, and we will work out a course schedule that is, feasible and desirable. The application deadline is July 1st, but we're already reviewing applications. So if you want to have an answer sooner, then get your application in sooner than July 1st. Independent research is, you have an opportunity for that in the PHEP 628 class, which I talked about earlier. There is no thesis requirement at U of L for this program. Elements of research are covered in many of the courses. You have the option to add an independent study to your flight plan. That's just your schedule of classes if the faculty member is willing and available to work with you. So you would have to negotiate that with a specific faculty member if that is something that you want to add on. The program is fully asynchronous. We emphasize methods and history, and all classes are taught by full-time professors with a PhD. So these are some of the substantive areas that we are experts in at U of L. A lot of us study chronic disease of different kinds. Environmental epidemiology is a big one, and that's why we have that environmental epidemiology course within our curriculum. We have an expert in infectious disease, a genetic epidemiologist, a couple social behavioral epidemiologists, and we also cover reproductive and maternal child health. So it's a wide variety of subject areas that you might be interested in. As I mentioned before, there is financial aid available, and there's the website there. You can look into that if you're interested. Okay, so what questions do you have? What are your interests?
Looks like we do have one question in the chat.
Okay.
What is the minimum credit for full-time student status?
I believe that's 9 for graduate students. And half-time would be 4.5. And you have to attend at least 4.5 hours to qualify for financial aid in a semester. Other questions? You guys want to tell us a little bit about yourselves and where you're coming from, what you're interested in? Anyone? Environmental epi, great. Yes, we have a professor, Natalie Dupre, who's working on the effects of heavy metals on colon cancer. I've done work in PBBs, PCBs, volatile organic compounds. And we have a great environmental epidemiology center at U of L called the Center for Integrative Environmental Health Sciences, the CIEHS. We also have the Envirome Institute at U of L, which has been working to see, for example, if tree cover in Louisville can improve health, like increasing the tree cover. Infectious disease. Okay, excellent. Yes. We have a nice infectious disease department, and we have one professor, Tashura Ali. She teaches the computational epidemiology in our class, and she's been studying things like long COVID and community-acquired pneumonia. Microbiology, yes. Madeline, I have a lab background too. I did a master's degree in genetics a long time ago. So it's a great background to have for epidemiology for obvious reasons. So that's great that you've got that background. You guys have any questions about the program? Yes, Alice in the Environment Institute. I just saw your comment. Mhm. Oh, you actually work there. That's great. Yes, if any of you are in Louisville, you're welcome to stop by our offices and talk to us about the program too. But we do have students from all over the United States right now. Yes, it absolutely prepares you properly to get into a PhD program. In fact, you'll be a step up. For example, a lot of people go from an MPH into a PhD, but an MPH is a very pr sorry, practical degree. That's my dog. Um, sorry, we're home on a snow day today. Let me mute this and I'll be back in 1 minute. Sorry about that. Oh, what was I saying? Oh, yes, it prepares you for the PhD program. Because we teach a lot of methods and statistical programming in our program, it might be a little bit redundant actually with what you might learn in the first year of a PhD program, but repetition doesn't hurt with statistics, that's for sure. I've learned that by taking statistics over and over again and learning it better every time. Um, so it definitely prepares you better than an MPH if that's what you're comparing it to. I'm not sure what angle you're coming from, but yes, it'll be great preparation for a doctoral program. Okay, sorry. What is the biggest difference between biostatistician and epidemiology? So they both cover statistics, but the biostatistics MS is going to be a lot more theoretical. You're going to have a lot more calculus. Um, it goes more into proofs of the different statistical tests and the statistical distributions. Um, Certainly, it's a good gateway to a lot of professions. Epidemiology is kind of halfway between practical and theoretical. So we have a balance of both. All of our examples are practically based. And for statistics and programming, we're really focusing on what you need to use when and why, as opposed to sort of proving these things mathematically. Um, I've often thought about going back and getting a degree in biostatistics myself just for fun, but just because I'm a big nerd. But you can do a lot with epidemiology. Also, epidemiology goes more into disease, like the biology of disease, um, and how disease develops, and it goes more into sort of the socioeconomic aspects of disease, environmental. So it's more, I would say there's a little bit more subject matter, more than just math and statistics in epidemiology, which I feel like it's a little bit more of a well-rounded degree, whereas biostatistics is more of a focused degree on biostats. Okay, I hope that answered your question. Um, Okay, the final project. Yes, so you're going to do that project whatever semester you take, PHEP 628. And it's a project that you do in the last month of that course where you're given an option of like 5 different data sets, and you're allowed to come up with your own research question that you can answer with those data sets. You'll do a little bit of a lit review, and then you're going to lay out some analysis, your methods. Your instructor, which will probably be me, will be going back and forth with you on your hypotheses and your methods to make sure they're appropriate for your research question. And then you'll do the analysis and write a report. So that's basically the last month of that course is dedicated to that. The independent study option will have more flexibility, will take more time. It will be a whole semester long, and it's not included in the regular requirements in the curriculum. So it would be on top of the 30 hours. If you did an independent study, it may extend your graduation date, it may not. So you might be able to fit it in on top of another class you're taking. Okay. How would epidemiology MS complement my background in environmental science? What notable intersection is there? Yes, so I can see a Venn diagram. There is some overlap, but environmental science is not going to be focused, I don't think, on sort of studying the human effects, like in terms of disease of environmental risk factors. So epidemiology is really focused on health outcomes. So how do these exposures, including environmental exposures, affect health outcomes? And there's a specific set of methods that have been developed to answer those kinds of questions that you are not going to get in an environmental science program. Um, so I guess that's the difference. Like epidemiology, you can think of as a school of thought almost. And in that school of thought, environmental plays a huge role, in terms of disease causation. And how do we figure that out? That's what epidemiologists do. We try to, we develop methods and we apply those methods to figure out in an observational world where we are just, watching things happen, how do we figure out causation? And that can mean environmental factors, genetic factors, biological risk factors, socioeconomic, social, and diet. So there's a lot of different factors to consider, but environmental is one of those. Um, and if you have an expertise in a certain environmental, say, pollutant, that can really help you, can boost you up in a certain field in epidemiology. It's always nice to be a subject matter expert in a particular field of epidemiology or division of epidemiology. Is a degree in biochemistry with a concentration in medicinal chemistry a good foundation for an MS in epidemiology? Yes, because it'll give you an idea about the development of disease and, what's happening on the molecular level. I remember biochemistry, all the amino acids, that's been helpful. I still remember some of that stuff. Um, and that is helpful when thinking about um, the biological pathways by which disease is caused in the human body, right? Medicinal chemistry, I can think there could be an application maybe in clinical epidemiology or in clinical trial epidemiology for sure. But yes, it's a good foundation because you have a good background in science. Even that is helpful. And you have a background probably in math. So if you have a good foundation in science and math, that is a great place to start in epidemiology. That's where I started from. Yes, this program is fully online. The MPH is more for a public health practitioner. So someone who works in the public health arena, kind of a forward-facing or a public-facing career. An MS is a research degree. An MPH is not a research degree. So if you want to do research or you want to help a company do research, then an MS is the way to go. If you want to be working for, say, a public health department, maybe collecting data around the city on vaccine uptake or harm reduction programs, then an MPH is more the direction you would want to go. If you're aiming for a PhD eventually, an MS is a more straightforward route. And the MS is much more rigorous with methods. So if you like statistics, then MS may be the one for you. If you are afraid of math, then MPH might be okay. Mhm. Absolutely. We actually have two students in the military right now who are doing our program. And they have to take time off sometimes or ask for just extension and deadlines. And we're very flexible. I mean, the online environment is so conducive to that it's really nice. Yeah, we've had no problems, no issues. So yes, the program is flexible, and our instructors are nice people. We're humans, and we understand that life gets in the way sometimes, and jobs. I should say for the MPH, you have to do 2 semester-long projects, the practicum, which is a practical experience that you do out in the world. Okay, so you'll sign an agreement with a company or maybe a nonprofit in Louisville and work with them for a semester, and that's your quote unquote practical experience. And you also have another project called an integrative learning experience, which can be a literature review or a data analysis project. So it's kind of like a mini thesis, if you will, and that's for the MPH. For someone considering a PhD in the future, what would you recommend them to take away from this MS in epidemiology? Um, well, you would take away a lot of statistical skills and computer programming skills, which again would make your first couple of years easier in a doctoral program. You'll have a leg up. Um, and it's well-rounded in terms of you have a class in the biology of disease. Oh, and I completely have neglected to emphasize this course on study coordination skills, which is really unique. So the two classes that really make this program unique are the study coordination skills class, which teaches you practical aspects to designing and running an epidemiologic study, and that's taught by Stephanie Boone. And she's been a PI for the rural study. I don't know if you guys have heard of that, but it's an epidemiological study looking at the health of rural populations in the United States. It's been going on for about 3 years. She's one of the PIs. She is the PI for Kentucky. So what she is doing with that class is building on or using her experience in the rural study to teach you guys about, what are all the nuts and bolts of basically designing a study and a huge study and running it from the ground up. Of course, it doesn't have to be huge, but her study just happens to be huge. A lot of us have been involved with studies of many different, shapes and sizes, and we all bring our unique experience to the classes that we teach. But that class is very unique. There's nothing like it that I know of in another program. Um, so you'll take away a lot of practical skills in terms of study design. Um, and I forgot what else I was going to say. Let's see here. Biology, theory. You'll take away, I think, an appreciation of epidemiology and just the field, where it's been, where it's going. Um, and you'll take away a good, solid foundation in epidemiologic methods, which is different from statistical methods. It uses statistical methods. So again, you can sort of think of a Venn diagram, but it is its own field. No problem. Other questions? You're very welcome. Um, okay, we got a few more minutes, but I'm going to go ahead and wrap up the presentation for those of you who need to get off. Again, I'm Kira Taylor. You can email me if you're in town. You can stop by my office. Or even if you're not in town, you can set up a virtual meeting with me if you want to talk more about the program and how it might fit for you. Thank you, everyone. You're welcome. Have a good day. Stay warm. Thanks.